Says he had a parents' evening.
Yeah, so once again, welcome to our Consciousness study class. This is a philosophy and ideology class, which is the main class of consciousness for the purpose of actually raising the consciousness of the people with the key three agenda in order to liberate Africa from neocolonialism, to totally unite Africa into one continental government, and to develop Africa through scientific socialism, which is, of course, what Nkrumah proposed. And this is the book of Nkrumah. Nkrumah wrote this philosophy and ideology for us as a guidance and a template for us to achieve those three options or three targets. We've been reading this paragraph by paragraph, and we discuss it deeply as we share our thinking and try to put the reading in African context. I know some people do say that, yes, I've read the book Consciousness, but it is beyond reading. If you cannot, people claim that they have read Consciousness, but they might not be able to understand the philosophy and this ideology if you just read like a normal textbook. Even Bible, they say just reading Bible openly cannot make you understand Bible. You need deeply to understand the context. So this is what you do. So we were discussing about what we call incipient solipsism, which is an extension of the idealist position that Nkrumah tried to delve deeper into it so that you can be able to understand the positions of idealists before he actually introduced the position of the materialist. And I'll actually read the paragraph from the Incipient Solipsism, which was part of our previous class, but our class for today will start from the paragraph starting with the word, my reason for referring to Cartesianism. So let me read the first paragraph. We'll not discuss it, but we'll be discussing the following paragraph.
Yep, fine.
Sister Myra, can you read for us that paragraph? The incipient solipsism. We just read it. We're not discussing it. We'll be discussing the following paragraph.
Okay. In incipient solipsism, like that which affected Descartes, one encounters a form of argument which is in its essence sincerely fallacious. Descartes says that he can think of himself as being without eyes or as being without arms, etc. In short, he claims that he can think of himself as having been deprived of any of his physical features, which anyone may care to name. Whatever be the truth value of this, he sets it up as a reason for saying that he can think of himself as being without a body. Though one may not wish to deny that Descartes could indeed have been physically deformed, indeed even hideously deformed, one must, I think, resolutely maintain that this incarnation is not a physical deformity. There still remains a distinction between mere deformity and disincarnation. Descartes' reasoning is of the same level of spaciousness as the notion that because one can think of a cow without a tail or horns, etc., one can think of a cow without a body. Thinking of a cow without a body is as different from the thought of a cow without a tail as thinking of Descartes without a body is different from his thought of himself without arms.
Thank you for that. Now, permit me read the paragraph of the class today. It says, my reason for referring to Cartesianism as incipient solipsism is that Descartes' alleged first principle is the admission of his own existence. On this sole first principle, he proposed, quite and soberly, to hang the whole universe as well as God. I say that Cartesianism is incipient solipsism because it contains inside itself the seeds of a fully fledged solipsism. These seeds can be seen to grow in the following way. Descartes proposes to doubt everything which might be known through the senses or through the reason. He sets out to doubt everything which might be known through the senses because the senses sometimes suffer from illusions and delusions. Not to mention the fact that everything which is said to form part of our working experience can equally well form part of dream experience. After all, the objects and situations which dreams represent are not qualitatively different from the representation of sense. Since the senses can be affected by illusions and disillusions, he proposes to treat them as unreliable witnesses to truth. And as to the reason, though at the best of times he wishes to hold it to be essentially infallible, he points at the well-known paralogisms of his predecessor in philosophy and geometry. If reason could so badly have misled them, it too must, for the time being, regarded as untrustworthy. So that's our reading for our class today. I'm trying to see if I can minimize maybe the paragraph so that we can cover the previous paragraph and this paragraph together. But I think you can expand the paragraph on your screen. On your phone, you can be able to see how you can expand the paragraph. If you just expand the screen, you can be able to expand the paragraph so that you can read it further. But I want to expand it so that we can have a general understanding. So, yeah, this is the reading. Who will go first to share what they think in regards to this? But there's a word coming in, Cartesianism, which need to be explained. Sister Myra? Who is wishing to go first to try to interpret this?
I can try with what it says about the word. Oh,
Okay.
now I've lost it. Oh, hold on. It says it is incipient solipsism because it can't. Sorry, it's hard to read. Because it consists inside itself the seeds of a fully fledged solipsism. And brother Kwame said that solipsism was solitude, or solitude within yourself. I think that's what he said last week. Solipsism was solitude. So I think Descartes is saying that he also says that you can't trust anything if it comes from the mind, I think, within the paragraph. He sets out to doubt everything which might be known through the senses, because the senses sometimes suffers from illusion and delusions. So he just doesn't trust any of it. He says if you're walking, you can't trust whether, almost like whether you're asleep or not. Where was that? So he doubts everything. I think that's what I've got from here. He seems to doubt everything. If reason could so badly have misled them, it too must, for the time being, be regarded as untrustworthy. So he doubts reason and he doubts people's thoughts. Or yeah, so that's what I've got from the paragraph.
Okay, based on my little research a bit, I had to go back again and check on what is solipsism. And as you say, solipsism is an extreme form of skepticism, at once utterly illogical and irrefutable. It holds that you are the only conscious being in existence.
Oh, well, maybe that's why he said solitude. I remember him distinctly saying solitude. Solipsism, what have I got written here? Two types, incipient and complete.
Solipsism is the view that there are no other minds.
Yeah, so, alone, me, solo.
Yes, you. But now, Nkrumah, of course, talks of the two sides of solipsism. He brings the complete solipsism and now the incipient solipsism. And that's now, he's now bringing another word called kate. Let me just delve deeper on solipsism so that we can be able to also form some understanding as we move along. So solipsism is the Latin word from the word solus, which is alone, and ips, which is self. Is the philosophical idea that only one's mind is sure to exist. An epistemological position, solipsism holds that knowledge of anything outside one's mind is unsure. And that's why here we are seeing things like when he talks of senses as Cartesianism or solipsism regarding senses as illusions or disillusions. You see? So it says that anything outside one's mind is unsure. The external world and other minds cannot be known and may not exist outside the mind. That's the position of solipsism. Then, of course, there are degrees of solipsisms. There's what they call the metaphysical. So metaphysical solipsism is a variety of solipsism based on a philosophy of subjective idealism. Metaphysical solipsists maintain that the self is the only existing reality, and that all other realities, including the external world and other persons, are representation of that self and have no independent existence. So that's where the metaphysical solipsism's position is. There's epistemological solipsism, which their position is epistemological solipsism is the variety of idealism according to which only the directly accessible mental content of the solipsist philosopher can be known. The existence of an external world is regarded as an unresolvable question rather than actually false. Further, one cannot also be certain as to what extent the external world exists independently of one's mind. For instance, it may be that a godlike being controls the sensations received by mind, making it appear as if there is an external world when most of it is false. However, the point remains that Epistemological solipsists consider this as a unresolvable question. And the third category is the methodological solipsism, which is an agnostic variant of solipsism. It exists in opposition to strict epistemological requirements for knowledge. It entertains the point that any induction is fallible. Methodological solipsism sometimes goes even further to say that even what we perceive as the brain is actually part of external world. For it is only through our senses that we can see or feel the mind. Only existence of thought is known for certain. So these are the, of course, solipses, and they say that the methodological solipses believe that subjective impressions, which is empiricism, which we discussed before, or innate knowledge, and rationalism are the sole possible or proper starting points for philosophical construction. So those are some of the ideas related to solipsism. So I think this can also give us some fair explanation. But moving further, it says that denial of material existence in itself does not constitute solipsism. Philosophers try to build knowledge on more than one inference or an analogy. The failure of Descartes, which of course is what we're discussing here, epistemological enterprise brought to popularity the idea that all certain knowledge may go no further than I think, therefore I exist. Without providing any real detail about the nature of I that has been proven to exist. The theory of solipsism also merits close examination because it relates to three widely held philosophical presuppositions, each itself fundamental and wide-ranging in importance. One's most certain knowledge is the content of one's own mind, my thoughts, my experience, and my effect. There's also no conceptual or logically necessary link between the mind and the physical, between the examples of the occurrence of certain concepts, experience, or mental state. And the last part is the experience of a given person is necessarily private to that person. So hope that can help us a bit. So Sister Ida, maybe you can proceed. Sister Ida?
Sorry, I was muted. I think that Descartes is still setting out his doubts, that everything, he doubts everything which might be known through the senses. So I think that even he just thinks if you can think it or reason it or whatever, you need to doubt that it's actually true. From what I think, from what he's saying, he's saying that real. Again, I think it's like it's like he doesn't think things are necessarily real. A bit like somebody who has problems or delusions or whatever. So I think solipsism is still about solo. So
yeah,
I don't know.
What I'm getting further.
Maybe you should ask other people what they think.
Yeah, what I'm getting further, just to expand a bit as we continue sharing our thinking. You see, here, Nkrumah introduced Cartesianism. And it says that my reason for referring to Cartesianism as incipient solipsism is that Descartes' alleged first principle in admission of his own existence. On this sole first principle, he proposes quite unsoberly to hang on the whole universe as well as God. So I'm going to be to read what is Cartesianism so that we can give others also to contribute. Cartesianism is a form of rationalism because it holds that scientific knowledge can be derived on prion, which means innate ideas, through deductive reasoning. Thus, Cartesianism is opposed to both Aristotelianism and empiricism, which is experience, with their emphasis on sensory experience as the source of all knowledge in the world. So let us remember that we are trying to discuss some of the tenets of idealism. And idealism, we say they believe in two things. They believe of ideas and spirits. And solipsism is here now trying to base too much on the ideas. And that's why they think of the mind alone. You see, and everything outside the mind does not exist. Anyway, Sister Maida, what's your thinking?
Sorry, comrades, I didn't realize I was on mute before. So, just like Sister Ida and yourself have said, I'm reading here that Cartesianism refers, in addition to what Brother Pepin has read out, it refers to a way of thinking that accepts dualism. So, for example, the mind and the body, nature, culture, good and evil. So I think here Descartes is his focus was on the mind and the body, right? So, and like Sister Ida has said, so if Descartes could not really trust whether he had an eye, because he knew that his senses could sometimes suffer from illusions or delusions, right? So again, it's a further example of idealism where the spirit and the ideas exist apart from the material. So if Descartes has the idea that he doesn't have an arm, then he's going to think that that arm cannot materialize, even if it's attached to his body, which is very strange. Then that last bit that says, if reason could so badly have misled them, it too must for that time being be regarded as untrustworthy. So I'm thinking what Dr. Nkrumah was saying was that perhaps this Western philosophy should be really, does it all make sense? I mean, if you can think that you don't have an eye because because you think it's an illusion or delusion, then is that really reality? Does that make sense? So I feel like here it was telling us to be a bit cautious about just as we do now, unfortunately, in our education. I bring it back to the African context. In our education, you see the way people prefer anything that is Western, and they dismiss everything that is African. But I think here, what Dr. Nkrumah was saying, the last sentence is, maybe we should really think about the sources of these philosophies, which are not ours, that we're embracing. Because, I think this Cartesianism and idealism and solipsism still very much today instructs Western thinking. And yet you see a lot of our African brothers and sisters embracing it without understanding who they are and without trying to discover materialism, which is more natural to us because that is our knowledge. So that's how I'll bring it to the African context.
Thank you. I think I've remembered something. Remember, previously, sometimes in some other paragraphs, we're discussing the idea of God, religion, and those other things. You can remember that.
Yeah.
And when Nkrumah talk of idealism, of course, it's explained that the idealists believe in ideas and spirits. So I think in the first extent, Nkrumah wanted to justify or actually explain the spiritual angle of idealist. And that's why he examined everything until he reached a conclusion that a state must be secular. Then after analyzing the spirits as one of the proponents of idealism, now Nkrumah has moved in this stage to analyze the concept of ideas, which form also part of idealist belief. So there are idealists who believe purely on ideas, and they don't accept the spiritual side of it. And this is now where I think solipsism is coming in, which purely only believe on self and mind alone. And they think that everything is our mind, not even experience, which is empiricism, is our mind. Everything, that's why he says that Descartes could imagine him being without a body or something like that, or a cow without a head and whatever. And then they don't actually think on the other side of a body, the material body, being part of a person. But the only thing in a person is the mind. And that is an extent to me, as he said, is more of being so selfish and egocentric. And I think this is the thinking of the whites or the Western philosophers. As you remember in the introduction, Nkrumah says that the colonial student who was a black man was exposed to various philosophies and ideologies to an extent that they forgot about their past, their history, and their background. So it's very clear that most of whites more be idealists because they're so selfish. African was more open to everybody else. We were living in communal thing or a social thing that it was not about myself. But these who believe in ideas being an independent and their mind, there's nothing outside, it's only them or their mind alone, is a category, second category of idealists. So there are idealists who believe in ideas alone, and the idealists who believe in spirits alone. Everybody will say, your mind is God who created it. Everything you think is God who has said it. Everything going on is God, is God, is God, is God. You see? Well, these are the people, the second category of idealists, believe that there's nothing like even gods or spirits or even material. It's only the mind. Not even experience, it's the mind. This is what I'm thinking. But let me hear what other people are also trying to get out of this. Brother Victor? Or
Yes,
brother,
yes, I'm
brother
here.
Victor.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much. Yeah, I always say that this is the only session that I always try to float, but I'm trying to get some concept today because I'm getting that that from the idealism, it is like it's more that like there is an aspect of what I like. Well, what I'm taking from is more of like believing, like there are people who believe in the ideas, but more of it is beyond just the normal. Yeah, but I think I'll come back later and like comment on it broadly. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. Brother Gabriel, is there anything you grasp that you wish to share your thinking?
Greetings, comrade. I don't have anything to say yet. I just want to listen and learn.
We don't think we encourage learning through sharing thinking. So this is not like either a lecture class where we'll be telling you what is right, but even us actually we're also struggling to share what we think is right or what we think we are understanding. So this is a class where you are free to share what you think out of the reading. So the paragraph is there. After reading it, what do you think it means? So there's no like a template of what it means, but we try to build our thinking maybe to arrive at a certain conclusion that Nkrumah was trying to sell to us or pass to us. This is a message Nkrumah was passing to us, but we really need to analyze it and share what do we think Nkrumah was saying here, and how can we contextualize it to our current situation. So each person is free to share their thinking. So we are not masters, we are not teachers, or we are perfect on this. We just try to analyze our content. Sister Ida, is there anything else that either you build up after some few explanations?
I'm not sure that I really feel that. No, not really. I'm not sure that I really feel that he is grounded. He seems to think everything is illusions and delusions. And so he tends to treat everything as unreliable, it says at the bottom. So so I'm not sure that I'm not sure that he's too grounded in what he thinks. You know, things change for him, I think. So
Yeah.
he doesn't necessarily believe anything.
No, I think also he tend to deny the existence of
Yeah.
other things. Because you see, when it's mentioned that after all, the objects and situations which dream represent are not qualitatively different from the representation of sense. Since the senses can be affected by illusion and illusions. So he doesn't even believe on the senses. He believes just on ideas that are on the mind. And you see, as you've said, this incipient solipsism believe on only that their mind is the only thing. There's nothing outside, there's no body, there's no anything, there's no experience that can affect personal life. But what they think is right is what they find is right. So they use what they think is
whatever.
right.
Yeah.
See?
It's about them.
Yeah. Do you think that's really a good thing, a good position for a person? You thinking that you are the only right person, and what you think is right, and you don't even think like other people also can think or can afford to think or are conscious like you are. You feel like you're the only conscious person.
But I don't necessarily think that. I think it's because they're not grounded in reality. So you know anything. So ideas are fleeting, and they. I don't know. I don't think that the most of it makes sense to them themselves.
Okay. Sister Mayra, do you have anything else to add up? Because I think it's becoming out that, as Nkrumah has concluded, that if reasons could soberly have misled them, it too must for the time being be regarded as untrustworthy. That's what they believe.
I think this idealist, the fact that idealism is all about the reasoner, right? And they believe themselves to be always right. For me, again, when I bring it back to life or issues today, I mean, you can see the kind of thinking where Western thinking is the right way, and you know, Western governments are everywhere in African politics, meddling, intervening, interfering, you know, because you know they're right and we should do things their way. And yet really, and it's also very dishonest because it doesn't, they never think that, oh my goodness, we're doing this because of greed, because we want resources. No. It's always for the good, or we're spreading democracy. It's all about them, right? But they present it as being benevolent and something good, you know? That's why you hear some people can even say colonialism was good for Africa, yet it was a great evil. Because it's just me, I, you know, what do they gain?
I think at the moment when you're saying what you're saying, it also reminds me of people who maybe you come across who are really, really racist. They're just totally racist, and they think they can get away with saying anything. I don't know that it's just what you're saying, Sister Myra. It just reminds me of some people who are so unhinged with what they can say about another person just because of the color of their skin.
And in their mind, they think they're right.
Yes, you know, but they're so, it's like they're so unhinged, you know, you just think,
yeah. Yeah, they're just stuck in that idea. So, yeah.
And they think they have the right to air what they're saying, and you just think,
yes.
what?
No? Yes.
I don't know. That is what you reminded me. I've seen that sort of behavior, but I would never put it to this, but At the same time, I've seen it, so it's in my mind when you were saying that, you know, and I'm thinking there are some people who are really unhinged when some of the things that they say to other people.
Yeah, because think about it. If it's just if a person is just an idea, and they can choose to say, oh, that person has a body, or that body is worthy or not, based on their way of thinking. Then if they don't think a Black person worthy, best, you know, because the Black person doesn't have the mind or the body in their world of ideas, doesn't fit anywhere, then they're not going to give that body or person or Black person respect.
Yeah, and
So
the fact that
for
they
me,
can
it ties in
actually
with
say the
racism.
sorts of things they say,
Yeah.
it's so weird. It's so weird because you think, how can anybody be that rude to somebody else? But you know, yeah. So I don't know.
Yeah, I wanted to share something again. I think from what we see here, if these people regard that their idealists regard that their ideas are the best, and that there's no ideas that exist outside their thinking or their ideas that can be justified or that can be right, then are we seeing this in most of the Western approach to Africa, whereby, in fact, even during COVID, they could only justify that their vaccines were the right vaccines. Their solution for Africa or for the world is the right solution. And that anything in regards of development of civilization is what they think, is what they really feel that is right. And that Africans or any people probably do not have that consciousness to know what is right. And that it is only them, until it is proven by them or until it's approved by them, is when it can work out. You realize that even most of Africa who try to do discoveries now or even before might go underground. They might be silent so that a white man will take credit. So they always feel that this majority of these idealists, they always feel like they're the people who own the right sense and they're the people who have the right ideas. And this is part of that being so selfish, which is actually being exemplified here by aspect of saying that they don't believe in anything existing outside themselves, and it's only them that they feel that it's them that they're right. So I think this is also something that is coming out, and it's something we are seeing. How they treat Africa or how even they react to us. They think that we are like, even when Brother Foko was presenting to us here the stories of religion and oppression of Africa, when they came over, like they were coming to save us. It's like we are not saved, or we are not human beings enough as themselves, and they think that they only the right people, and that anybody who think to be right must be like them. So I think it's also something that's trying to come out of this. But welcome, Brother Coco. Let's move to this second paragraph and tie it to the first paragraph. Those people who join us, let's now join the conversation here, because I think it's actually an extension a bit of what we are discussing up there. So, Sister Ida, can you read for us that now, the second paragraph, Descartes, where you start, the first paragraph on this page?
Descartes notes just in time that he who is so anxious about the truth and doubts everything has been thinking and must exit if he thinks. Must exist, is it? Exits. Exist if he thinks. Hobbies are misguided when he thought. Is that a person? Hobbies are misguided when he thought that it was equally open to Descartes to say that because he walked, he existed. Descartes, having doubted away his body, could not suppose himself to walk. But even if he doubted that he thought, he would still be thinking, as doubting was a form of thinking. It was necessary for Descartes to single out what he could not coherently doubt in order to peg his existence on it. And that is why he says that he thinks, therefore he exists.
Thank you. That's another interesting concept. Brother Koko, what do we say? Welcome. What do you say is African? I am because the Ubuntu thing.
I am because we are.
And how about this one? I think therefore I exist. It's like I think therefore I am. Or what's the opposition of I am because you are?
This doesn't consider anyone else. It's what you think. It's who you are. It's your own little world. In short, it's the foundation of individualism.
Mm-hmm.
And the difference is that with communalism, I cannot sit here and have a plate full of food while my neighbor down the street doesn't have anything. Anything. I think somebody else was making a very interesting, it was Joshua Maponga on Monday or Tuesday, when he said his grandmother used to say to him, go to the neighbor next door and ask and go borrow salt. That's how Africans do. Go and ask for salt. And Joshua will say, but grandma, we have salt in the house. But he'll say, go, I ask you to go borrow salt. Then later on, he said, but why will you make me go ask for salt when we have salt? He said, because I know what their conditions is. What we will do is, whatever dish they use to give the salt to you, it will come back with something else. That is what Africans are about. Is I am because we are. Is what makes us whole. We are whole that way. But in this case, these guys are, I think, therefore I exist. And again, it's saying to an African, you don't think, therefore you don't exist. And I am therefore entitled to all the resources you have. It's more or less along the same lines that guy made a video that African governments are actually selling the resources to the Europeans. Hence why Africa is poor. And Africans should not be blaming the Europeans for their misfortunes. It's the same mentality.
Mm.
Sister Ida, you can just go
Interesting. Mm. No, I like what Brother Coco just said. It's interesting because it's so opposite of. It's opposite, yet it sounds very, very similar. The bit about I think, therefore I exist, or whatever. But then the African is I am because you are, isn't it?
Yes, you see, there's something that's very interesting here. Descartes try to not actually answer directly, because you see, we've been asking the question, the origin of the universe. This is the base question we've been building up on. And that's where we get the two positions, the materialist position and the idealist position. And as I said, we've been examining the idealist position. And the idealist position, as we've said, is having two fronts. There's a front represented by Berkeley, who believes on spirits, the religious people, that anything in the universe or anything about the person is about the spirits. And that these people think that everything is about just the ideas. And therefore, the question that we even asked above there or before is that because if Descartes thinks that he exists because he thinks, so do you think that really justify or answer how you exist or who you're made up of? So you're made up of thinking. Because you thought of it, now you are. Can he think that is a cow and he can turn to be a cow? And that's why up there is questioned that he cannot think of walking because he doesn't think of the other material part of a body. So he's only thinking of the mind. So the mind cannot walk, because why will the mind get the foot to walk if you don't think beyond the mind? The only thing you're thinking is based on your ideas on your mind. And this is a fallacy here, because you see, when somebody says that, you say Descartes, having doubted that the thought he will still be thinking or doubting was a form of thinking. It was necessary for Descartes to single out that he could not coherently doubt in order to peg his existence on it. And that's why he says that he thinks, therefore he exists. This is just a I think an excuse to avoid answering more questions. If somebody will be asking you, what's wrong with you? No, I'm fine. Or you think you are right. If somebody asks you, can you justify why you are right? You just say that I think I'm right, that's why I'm right. It's really, I think it's really an excuse to failure to justify your position. And this shows actually the weakness or the failure of idealists. And therefore, idealists might or should be actually opposed, because they cannot justify anything else about the universe, how the universe exists. They only talk of mind. And this is also, if I bring to African context, as Brother Coco saying, this is where the white man or the white supremacists or the Westerns thinks like what they think is right. And if you tell them, can you justify? They'll not take time to justify to you, because even they don't believe that either your thinking exists or either you're conscious enough. They'll just say, I'm right. Just because I'm right. I think I'm right, therefore I'm right. They can't go extra mile to justify that. And this is what we see. So welcome, Brother Kwame. And Sister Myra, what's your thinking? We are, Brother Kwame, in the second paragraph. We've been trying to catch up with the Descartes thinking from the paragraph above, from my reasons for referring to Cartesianism. Then we've gone to also try and analyze a bit Descartes thinking in this first paragraph in this page, which ends with that he thinks, therefore he exists. Sister Myra?
So I think in this paragraph, we have two schools of thought, but all under idealism, where I'm assuming Hobbes was another philosopher who said that because he walked, he existed. But then remember, Descartes had said that he can imagine that he doesn't have a body. So if he doesn't have a body, then he cannot walk. But he had to find a way to prove that he exists, because he knew that he does exist. So even if he was having these doubts, doubting is also having thoughts. So I thought, well, I'm doubting, therefore I exist. And Brother Pigeon just said something very, very poignant, where he said, when they came to Africa to steal everything, and they still do, they said either you are thinking or you either. So they looked at us, because when you read about the colonial time, they will say they came to civilize us. They came to we didn't have any culture. There was nothing there. But they were just, I don't know, or probably I don't know whether our ancestors were invisible. But they in that thinking, you can see that they didn't think that we could think, but they didn't think that we had a conscience, or we're not conscious enough. Therefore, even though they could see the bodies there, so on some level to them, we're not existing. So it could be used anyhow, is what I'm taking from this. Again, it's just the mind exists there. So it's just there on its own there, and they did extend that can I call it a courtesy to us, because we were not, they deemed us unable to think for ourselves. So they had to tell us how to do a democracy, how to build our countries, how to be. So yeah, that's what I think.
Thank you for that. I think Brother Kwame will help us a bit. But I think Hobbes also, we've come across Hobbes in the past paragraphs before. I think he was one of also idealist philosophers. I don't know if he was in the spiritual angle of idealism or the idea angle of idealism, because as I've said, it's clear that idealism had two schools of thought. That those who are in the spiritual angle, those who think of spirits, and those who are in their ideas. And I think that Descartes, as Brother Kwame Nkrumah is trying to give us here, is the second school of thought of idealists, those who believes in ideas. Well, when he was representing the religion and how existence of God and the rest of the thing, Nkrumah was trying to bring us the first categories of also idealists, those who believes in spirits. Unless Brother Kwame, you can correct me on this.
Yeah, what am I correcting?
On Hobbes being one, of course, the idealist philosopher, and whether the idealism, of course, what Nkrumah is trying to explain by Descartes here is the second class of philosophers under idealism, those who believe on ideas. And it appears that those who believe in ideas, even under idealism, do not believe on even spirits and existence of spirits. And therefore, this like Hobbes and Descartes becomes a conflict between the same idealists in their different schools of thought.
Hobbes, I'm not aware that Hobbes was an idealist. I'll have to check on that. Because there was this idea that Hobbes is known for. The idea that life was brutish and short. By that, Hobbes meant physical life. Hobbes was first exposed to Euclidean mathematics. He was so shocked by he was so shocked by what he saw, what he read, the conclusions, and by saying that it was open to Hobbes to, it was open to Descartes to also say that because that if he walked, then that means he also existed. So there's a sense in which, if you like, Hobbes was trying to bring the issue from the mind to the leg. But as Nkrumah was saying, if he doubted his body away, then he could not walk. Yeah, so I think someone was saying, I heard that doubting itself is thinking. So the capacity to doubt is itself a way of thinking. So yeah.
Thank you for that. I've tried to research a bit, and I'm told that Hobbes is best known for his political philosophy, and the best known British empiricist. He was an empiricist of the early modern period of Locke, Berkeley, and Hume. Hobbes, however, was very much an empiricist, and his empiricism is wrapped up on other key features of his philosophy, most notably his materialism. So he was probably
precisely. That's why I'm saying that I'm not aware that Hobbes is known for his idealism.
Okay, so at this aspect, either Hobbes from his materialist position was trying actually to question Descartes' idealist position in terms of ideas and the existence of ideas.
So so if you like, he was trying to bring Descartes down from the mind to the leg, which in a way is trying to say that, well, the further that you are thinking, if you are thinking, and the reason you are able to think is because you have a body. If you have a body, then you can also walk. So why is it that it is only if you are thinking that you know you exist? What if you are walking? What if you are a somnambulist, who is someone who walks in their sleep? They don't even know they are walking. So they go to sleep and yet they wake up at night and they are walking. but they are not conscious of being walking. Does that mean that they don't exist? So you can walk without the mind, by which I mean the conscious mind. So all this is just going to show that idealism is at heart problematic at its core. I mean, that's what this is trying to show. And the reason why we as conscientists, if we want to liberate Africa and unite and develop it, then what we can't do, the idealists. Of course, if you have a personal belief in spirits and in spirits and devils and demons and all that sort of stuff, the idea that spirits can walk and talk. If you are a person, seance and all that, you are someone who believes in that, then that can be your personal belief. But you must then demarcate that from your public role, your role as a public servant. And I think the capacity to hold both views, if you like, is a good thing. If you are able to, if you are a person who can hold contradictory views on something, then that shows a level of maturity, because that is what dialectics is. Dialectics is like the capacity to hold contradictory views on something. On one hand, it is this. On the other hand, it's that. Anyway, but coming back again to the point, to this paragraph. So basically, saying that idealism is at heart problematic. That's what it is saying.
What do you make of this conclusion that Descartes says that he thinks, therefore he exists?
Sorry, what's the question?
What do you make up of these last decades? Of course, it's like an answer or a defense response that he thinks, therefore he exists. So his existence is out of his thinking.
So he's saying that he can doubt everything and doubt everything away. That he's the only one, he's the only person that can doubt the existence of everything, because he can never know whether his mother exists or not, whether his father exists. He can never know that these things exist. And the reason he cannot know is because he has no way, you have no way of proving that me who I'm talking to you now, I exist, except through your mind, if you like. The only way you can know I exist, the only way you can say I exist as I'm talking to you now is that you are thinking that I exist. But do I really exist? Are you sure that this is not just a dream? That the Kwame you are hearing, that you are probably asleep somewhere. The Kwame you are listening to now actually is just you in a dream? I mean, could it be that humanity itself, that we're all actually in a dream? That there's really no reality? All these train I'm in now, you can see I'm in a train, all this it's in a dream. It is not real. Is that a possibility? And then you are doubting away all these things. And then at the end of the day, he doubts away everything. And then the only thing that he's left with after he's doubted away everything. So the word cogito means I think, yeah, in Latin. So I think, cogito, I think, therefore, ergo sum, therefore I am. So if you've doubted away everything, ultimately, you can't doubt. If you doubt away everything, ultimately, the capacity, the capacity, that which is enabling you doubt things is your mind, is your thinking. And that thing, that doubting itself is thinking. Therefore, the only way that you can know you exist is your capacity to think. That is the only thing you are left with. Okay? That's the only thing you are left with. And because you have darted away everything, it means that the universe itself disappears. So the universe itself disappears. There is no universe. There is no family. There is no nation. There is nothing. The only thing that is you. Which you? That you that is thinking. And if you like, that is the ultimate in if you like the word mentalism. Yeah, mentalism, the idea that existence is all in the mind. So this is the ultimate. Yeah, don't worry if your son is hungry. You know, just assume away your child. If your baby is crying for milk, don't just assume it away. It doesn't really exist. Yeah, if the people don't have proper housing, no, don't worry. Just assume it away. If the people are not on a good standard of life, you can just assume it away. If the people are saying that they are being neglected by their government, you can just assume it away. If you call a press conference, just assume it away. It's just in the mind. There's no one really calling a press conference. It's all in the mind. Yeah. So this is the ultimate in political nonsense, if I may say so. Or is the ultimate in philosophical nonsense.
Thank you.
I'm using it in a very nice way.
Thank you. I
in
think
a nice way.
you of course move us to also the paragraph that was following, which is related. But before, when I was sharing, doing some research on solipsism, there was this category that I read before. It's called epistemological solipsism, which is the variety of idealism according to which only the directly accessible mental content of solipsist philosophers can be known. The
Yes.
existence of an external world is regarded as a resolvable question rather than an actually false. Further, one cannot also be certain as to what extent the external world exists independently
Precisely.
of one's mind. So these they are more of their positions, you see. And their metaphysical thing, their metaphysical solipsism is a variety of solipsism based on a philosophy of subjective idealism. Metaphysical solipsists maintain that the self is the only existing reality, and that all other realities, including the external world and other persons, are representation of that self and have no independent existence. You see.
Yeah. And that's what we've been discussing. It's what I've been explaining, and that's the point.
Yes.
And that is why, if you look at Introduction to Consciousness, Kuma makes a point that there were a certain category of Africans in today's world. There are some politicians, if you like, who were brought up on this sort of idealism. So imagine these people being presidents or governors or ministers. What kind of minister do you think such a person would be? Somebody who thinks that their own constituents don't exist. Yeah. If you doubt away the bodies, your own body, and the bodies of your constituency, then if your constituencies are saying they're hungry, they don't have enough food, surely you will not understand because you've doubted all that away. Yeah. And so this is why it's unattached experience. Unattached experience.
You saying about people doubting it away reminds me of the French queen who, when told there was no food, said, "Let them eat cake."
Yeah.
Is it Marie Antoinette?
Marie Antoinette, yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
the doubting of reality. Yeah. Sorry, just reminded me of
It's
that.
fine. Yeah, they live in such an idealist world. Not idealist as in idealistic, or not idealist as in there's a sense in which the ideal is the best that one can think of. So we say something is ideal, by which we mean it is the best you can conceive of in your mind. That is not what we are talking about here. We are talking here about a philosophy that ultimately, you know, doubts away the world. So Africa does not exist. You know, even if you talk about Africa, don't even go to Africa. Just stay in Europe. Europe itself doesn't exist. Yeah, the country in which these philosophers live, that even that country doesn't exist. And if their own countries don't exist, how can yours exist when they've doubted away their very own? Let me pause there. I can talk and talk and talk. Let me pause there
Okay.
because I think I've
Thank-
made the main point.
Thank you. I think I'll need to tie that paragraph you've alluded to, the cogito ergo sum, which is, of course, it says is an extension of the discussion that, but it is at this point that decades run the gauntlet of a creeping solipsism. Though decades is entitled to say, cogito ergo sum, I think, therefore I exist. He will clearly be understanding too much if he understood from this that some objects existed, let alone had Monsieur Descartes.
Monsieur Descartes. So Monsieur is Mr. in French. Yeah, Monsieur Descartes.
Or Monsieur Descartes existed.
Or you can say Mr. You can say Mr. Descartes
Oh.
existed. Yeah.
Or let alone that Mr. Descartes existed. All that is undubitable in the first section.
Indubitable means that which you cannot doubt.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All
that word is doubt.
Means,
yeah.
In the first section of Descartes' statement is that there is a thinking. Of course, from his word of I think, there's a thinking. The first person is in that statement no more than the subject of a verb, with no more connotation of an object than there is in the anticipatory it of the sentence, it is raining. The pronoun in this sentence is a mere subject of a sentence and does not refer to any object or group of object which is raining. It in that sentence does not stand for anything. It's a quark pronoun. Of course, this I think is trying to still find it. When he says I think, the I.
You see, so this paragraph has, if you like, hit the nail on the head to say that ultimately, actually, let me stop there because you have to hear from everyone and I can share my thoughts as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Let me go to Brother Coco. Brother Coco?
So,
okay. Yes.
I listened to what you read, and I also tied that with what Brother Kwame was saying before. Again, he's talking about doubts. He's talking about there be no doubts. So, undoubtable that he exists. So it's more of Descartes saying whatever he's saying is it's with certainty to say I exist because I think, is to give himself that assurance that actually I am here because I'm thinking. It means I'm alive. I therefore exist. I am thinking. So for someone who is not thinking or is busy with other things at that time, whereas again, as we all know, there are two types of memory. There's a conscious memory and then there's a subconscious memory. So those who are using subconscious memory, doing things automatically or knee-jerk reaction, it means they are not thinking, they are not alive, they are not existing. It's only those who think from what we are reading. It means there is no doubt that he is alive because he is engaging his conscious mind to fathom different things or shape ideas in his head. And even though it's more of giving assurance to himself, in the end, it boils down to the fact that it's only those who think who exist, and those who don't think don't exist, or those who are busy with other things don't exist. I think I'll listen to what other colleagues have to offer, but it's a bit of that. Thank you.
Thank you. Sister Myra.
So this paragraph is a bit tricky, but I think the first sentence of the paragraph says it is at this point that Descartes runs the gauntlet over running solipsism, and then he breaks it down, which to me looks like he critiques the grammar, try and understand what Descartes was saying when he said, "I think, therefore I exist." And he says the first person is in that statement no more than the subject of a verb, and there's no connection to any object. And I'm thinking is highlighting his definition of solipsism, where the I is the whole universe, it's the whole existence and nothing else. So to me, I think he's bringing out the nature of, or he's bringing out the thinking of solipsism in the everything, and there's nothing else that exists outside of that I. Yeah.
Thank you. You can go ahead.
No, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, Sister Ida.
I don't really have anything to particularly say on this. First person is in that statement no more than the subject of a verb. I don't really have. I think it's just more of the same of what has been said in the paragraph before.
Okay. To my thinking is the I. So all along the case was so much concentrated on the mind and the ideas alone, to an extent that you could not actually contemplate an existence of our whole being, from the leg, whatever the ear and the rest. And in this aspect, the word I, the think part to me is ideas. But when you start from the word I, then actually at this particular moment you recognize a being, somebody or something existing, apart from the second sentence of the thinking. So to this is like a justification that it's not only the thinking or the ideas that exist. There's a being here represented by the word I. And therefore, this being, either the I, forms the material part of a being. And therefore, it's not only the ideas, which is the thinking side of it, it's more of also the material side of our whole being. That's actually in that sentence, as what I'm trying to read, there are two representations. There is an I, which represents the material being of an individual. Then there's a thinking side, which actually represents these ideas that he tries to propel. So by saying I think, it means the I aspect still stands from, to me, my thinking is that the I represents the other side of the material being. So you must recognize that it's not only the ideas of the brains, there's a being here. And if you recognize that there's a material being or a human being that must actually, to our thinking, must have the whole parts of the body, there's not only the mind that forms the part of the body. That's what I'm trying to think in regards to that statement. But let me hear what Brother Kwame has, or what Brother Kwame is thinking. Brother Kwame?
Yeah, so let me add to what you've all said. I think that you've all not moved forward from where we were in the previous paragraph. What do I mean by that? In the previous paragraph, Descartes is saying that he can doubt away everything, including his body. Oh, can you hold on, please? Let the announcement finish. Okay, so that's what Descartes is saying. In this paragraph, the argument has gone one step further, and that one step further is what the first line is telling us, that what Descartes is doing without realizing is that he is actually arriving at a position where we have a universe of pure thought. That's what this paragraph is telling us.
Sorry, can you repeat that? How
This
he's moved forward.
if you like, the extreme position. Paragraph is to move forward. Now there's no body. There is even no I, because the I, sorry, sometimes this.
Well, we are losing you. I think we're not getting you that clearly. Maybe it's a network issue, or maybe you're switching your phone as you do.
In this paragraph, the argument has gone one step further. In this paragraph, we've but what you are seeing in this paragraph is that there is no need for any I to think. In the same way as if you say it is raining, when you say it is raining, when it is raining, when we say it is raining, it is the rain itself that is coming down. Any entity rain come down. So pair it is raining with I am thinking, therefore I am. Because when you say I think, therefore I am, you're also saying that I am thinking. And because I am thinking, therefore I exist. Yeah. So what this paragraph is saying is that if you take it in that sense, then we arrive at the ultimate, the extreme position where there is now no entity doing the thinking. All we have now is just pure thought. That is what this paragraph is telling us. So now, nothing exists. There is no universe. There is no human body. There is no I. There is just pure thought. Yeah? This is what this paragraph is telling us. And you see, those from the Christian and Islamic tradition, if you like, or those from the religious tradition, when they look at the human body, they like to say that there are three parts of the human body. And what they say is that there is the physical body, and then they say, well, there's a soul, and then they say there is the mind, there is the spirit. That's what they say. So the human constitution is made up of body, soul, and spirit. And the body is the physical body. The soul is, they say, is your thinking part, and the spirit is like the feeling part, or the heart, if you like. Yeah. So that is what they say. Now, what this paragraph is saying is that, could it be that when people talk like that, when they say that I, so we say the I, so you have a spiritual self, you have a higher self, as some say, you have a higher self, and that higher self lives in your physical body. So that means that it's possible that when you die, this higher self leaves the body, or this higher self, which is your spiritual being. For those of you who have read the Bible, Paul goes on about the inner self. He says the inner man, to say that there's an inner man and there's an outer man. Could it be that there is no such thing as an inner man? There is no such thing as the real person, the real Kwame. See, me that I'm talking to you now, the real Kwame, you see, is the one talking. And that real Kwame is different from the Kwame you are seeing, the physical body. The real Kwame is inside my body. Would it be that all that is just complete nonsense? Yeah, that's what it's asking. That actually, ultimately, what this paragraph is saying, what Descartes is saying, is that at the end of the day, there is thinking. For those of you who have read a philosopher called Plato, will be familiar with Plato's idea that if you take a chair, for instance, the chair that you see around you or that you are sitting on now, that physical chair is a replica of the real chair. And where is the real chair? The real chair or the real bed or the real anything is actually spiritual. Yeah? And it exists in the mind of God. So inside God's mind is all reality, things that are real. So everything you see around you are just, if you like, they are replicas. They are counterfeits. They are not the real thing. They are the real thing is that which is in the mind of God. So this thinking by Descartes, and remember Descartes is a Christian, yeah? It comes from that Christian tradition. Yeah. So this is where this is coming from. And what materialism is saying, without saying so, is that there is no I there anymore. That what you arrive at ultimately is pure thought. In other words, at the end of the day, our universe is pure thought. That's all it is. There is nobody even thinking. There is no entity that is thinking. Everything around you are just, if you like, thought. By thought, I mean ideas and spirits. That's all there is, ultimately. That's what this is saying. So this paragraph has moved beyond body and physical things and everything. There is no hydrogen, there is no oxygen, there is no carbon. All you have is pure thought. So this is the ultimate in idealism, by which I mean, for idealism, that is the extreme form, that which is pure thought and nothing else. All of us are just thoughts. Yeah, we exist as thoughts. Yeah, and that's what there is.
Oh, thank you. I've realized when you refer to the word, that's what there is. Actually, take us back to what are we answering? What there is. And now you're saying that that is what there is. It means that the answer to what there is to them is thoughts.
Thoughts,
nothing
pure
else.
thought. That's
pure
it. Only
thoughts,
thought.
nothing.
Only thought exists. Only
Thank
thought
you for that.
exists.
So, because the question was the origin of universe, what the origin of universe made up of. And the first question
thought.
is what there is. Now, what there is to them is pure thoughts.
Pure thought.
The second part of the question was how what there is, which now maybe we will be proceeding. So at least we've arrived to one answer to the idealist, that to them what there is pure thoughts. Let's advance this just a little further as we give our final comments in regards to our final thinking in regards to this, and by extending that brief following paragraph that says that, and so once again we have an attached experience, thinking without an object which thinks. And as the subject is merely grammatically, it cannot serve as a genuine principle of collection of thoughts, which will mark one batch of thoughts as belonging to one person rather than another. The universe thus becomes a plurality of thoughts which are unattached.
Precisely. That's active.
I think that's a very Yes,
Yeah,
yes, brother Kwame.
Can I give you an example here? All of us here have a hand, don't we? We all have hands, yeah?
Yes, we do.
Even if you don't have a hand, there's something called a hand. Now, I hope you all know that all of us have a prints, something called a fingerprint. Yeah, your palm has a print there, and everyone's print is different. Have we all realized that? Yeah, everyone has a different fingerprint. Now, when you are born to when you grow, you die, that doesn't change, and that is why someone can commit a crime when he or she is 12, and when he or she is 60, they can still be caught because the print has never changed. Now, what we are reading is saying that if you are saying that all we have is pure thought, how are you going to distinguish? How will thought distinguish between Coco and I? Yeah? How is thought now going to say that this is Coco and this is Kwame, or this is Pigeon and this is Ida, just on the basis of thoughts? How is that going to be possible? In other words, can we ever do science based on this sort of thinking? Can we? That's what this paragraph is 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 drawing us to. Because if we are saying that, if we ask a question, if we saying okay, if we ask a question, well, what is our universe made of? And we say, well, it is matter or spirit. Or so we say, oh, our universe is made up of spirit. Okay, so if our universe is made up of spirit, how then do you explain the sea from the river? How do you explain a train from a car? How do you explain an antelope from a buffalo just using thought? How are you going to do that? So you see that science is impossible. It's impossible. That is why idealism has offered us no scientific canon. The only philosophical position that leads to a scientific program is materialism, because through materialism we can say that this is water and this is mercury. Yeah, we can say that this water I'm showing you, so I'm holding water now. Yeah, this water I'm showing you, this water is pure, that water is polluted. Science can tell a difference. If you are just using thought, how are you going to differentiate between drinking water and non-drinking water? How? It's not possible. It's not possible. And that is what this paragraph is drawing us to. That even if you say that the universe is made up of spirits or ideas, then if you are asked, well, how can you tell us how does thought, how do you use thought to explain bread from cake, so that when I see the thoughts, I can, oh, this is cake and then this is bread. How is that possible? It's impossible. Impossible.
So thank you once again for that. Let's get what other people are thinking in regards to whatever we've read from the first paragraph you've been reading up to where now we are arriving to this conclusion. How do you actually try to contextualize it? Let me go to Sister Mayra.
I was just thinking, what Brother Pigeon just said, that this is that every if the universe is just pure thought, then that is the what of the idealist. So I was wondering, so what is the how? But if I have to guess, I'm guessing the how is the Western way of thinking is right, and therefore it is. Again, I wouldn't think if there is an answer as to how, I think it will be as again flimsy, can I say, without any real foundations in reality of, of if it makes sense or not. So it's just wondering, if this is their what, then what is the how? How do these thoughts, if they're not attached to a human being, they're not attached to an object, what they do, then where do they come from?
Yeah. Chair, if I may interject.
Yes.
Based on what Samara said, you see the classic breakdown in this philosophical position of idealism, if you recall, is racism itself. Because one of the arguments is in racism is that there are different races. There is a black race. Just use the example of black race and white race. It turns out that there is no biological basis for it. There is no basis in the scientific view. There is no such thing as a white race, and there's no such thing as a black race. The only thing there is in science, in biology, in biological science, the only thing we know is that there is a human race. That's all. And so it turns out that, from what Sister Mara is saying, the how turns out to be false. Now we can see why it's false. Because they were trying to use thought to build an edifice which is not possible. You see, and they wanted people to believe it. And for a while, people did, until science exposed the fact that there is no scientific basis. That all human beings come from the same matter. We all are from carbon. All of us have about human beings, all human beings, whether you are white, whether you are the king, whether you are the queen, doesn't matter who you are. You are at least 60% water. There is no scientific basis for racism, for the concept of race. It is a fraud, and we can see why. Just drawing on what Sister Myra said, basically.
Thank you. Thank you for that interjection. Sister Ida? Sister Ida? Okay.
Ask her to unmute herself. Maybe she's speaking.
Sister Ida, can you unmute yourself, please? Okay, let's go to Brother Coco. We'll come back to Sister Ida. Brother Coco?
Yes, thank you, my leader. Thanks all brothers and sisters. It's been really a testing day for me at work today. And I was really tired, but I said, you know what? I have an interesting class to attend today. So despite all of that, I came and I think I have benefited. So I'm saying this because there is a phrase here, unattached thoughts. It talks about unattached thoughts as if thoughts can exist without our bodies. Thoughts can exist without people who generate them. How can thoughts exist independently? That's impossible. There was one guy I was talking to, in fact, two of them, who said there is an awakening happening in Africa at the moment. It's interesting, really interesting. And it could be the right time to be part of that. And we are all drawn to one another, or we are drawn to those people who are thinking and hoping for the best for Africa. And we are here in this class as one of those. Is a demonstration of people wanting the best for their continent, wanting the best for their people. We didn't come here because our thoughts were unattached and they just happened to collide somewhere. So to me, it's, you know, everything happens for a reason, but we have to want that to happen. We came here because we wanted to be here in the first place. I think that is what I am taking from this. The fact that, again, it was hard to understand exactly where we are going with this text, but in the end, it's clear, it's there, that we are here because we want to be here, not because our unattached thoughts suddenly collided. I think that is what I'm taking from this today.
Thank you for that. I really like the part of the collusion of unattached thoughts. Sister Ida? Sister Ida? Okay. I don't know whether she's having some problem in sharing and thinking, but I'll go ahead then before I allow Brother Kwame to share his thinking. Equally, to me, it has been an interesting journey trying to go down the lines of this, following the thought trail of Kwame Nkrumah, to actually fully expose to us what idealists think and what is the answer to idealists in regards to what there is. And I remember Sister Ida sometimes back was saying, it will be interesting to know what the materialist position, because having Nkrumah exposed much of the idealist position, Sister Ida was interested to know what is the materialist position. But this conclusion to the answer, what there is that to the idealists, to them, everything is thoughts, and the universe is just some thinking or some thought somewhere. It's really unjustifiable. It cannot actually be empirically or rationally be explained, and therefore it cannot hold any ground. And as Brother Kwame was saying, of course, even in race thinking, it's just something that's baseless. And the other aspect of more of individualism that has come out from idealist thinking, that is the only them and it's only in their mind that there's nothing conscious enough or nothing worth enough to think in their level, is actually what we see not only to the whites, the so-called whites or the Western world, but also to some who call themselves elites, who believe that they are center of what is right and what should be done. And actually, this is what we have to challenge as either materialist position who are progressive, who believe that everybody has the capacity to think, of course, and reason, and that everybody is equal. Actually, I think this also what clearly makes to me the difference between the liberal, conservatives, and the idealists, based on how do they think and how they are open enough to the universe. So that's my thinking. Brother Kwame?
Yeah, I think I've said enough. There's no, I don't want to add any more. Yeah, I think I've said enough, and I think you've also, all of us in our contributions, have laid it on the head. You know that ultimately, what there is, the question what there is spirit, and their ideas. The only thing I would say, Brother Pigeon, is that for those who believe that the universe ultimately is pure thought, you can't dissuade them. And if you try, it will not work. You cannot dissuade them from holding on to that belief. They will not believe. And the reason is that some of those who have this belief believe in an almighty deity, an almighty spirit. They believe that spirit exists independently, called God. And if you like, what Descartes is trying to do, is to say that God, spirit, thought, and ultimately, we are all thoughts in God's thought. How are you going to disprove that? If you believe in a deity, people believe in God, how are you going to stop them from believing in God? So even though we are saying here that the idealist position is not tenable, we are saying so not on an empiricist position. We are saying so on a logical basis. You know, the logic that it takes a body to think. From what we can see, we don't know of any anything that can think without a body, whether in the human world or in the animal world. You understand? Anything that we know thinks has a body. Therefore, if there is a God that thinks, then that God must have a body. Well, it turns out that turned out to be true because they say that Jesus is God. Well, Jesus, if he's God, had a body. You know, he had a body, and so he was able to think. So wherever he is now, whether he's with his father, whatever he is, then the logical conclusion is that God has a body, and therefore things. So, so I'm just drawing out some of the
Thank you.
issues. See where this is taking us. So, in
Yeah.
short, those who believe you can't, you can say whatever you like. They are diehards. Just as I, as a materialist, I'm not prepared to move from my position. Same way,
Thank you.
the
It's very
idealists will
funny.
not move from their position.
It's very funny how they mix, as you said, that the Son was a being. So it is God the Father, God the Son, but also God the Holy Spirit. So it's even a confusion in their trail of thoughts. Anyway, thank you very much for you all attending the class today. To me, it's on Friday already. So I know you are coming to Friday. You are still on Thursday. Let's meet on Friday, which already I am. But it's a pleasure having you today. And let's meet again the next class on next Thursday as we continue the reading.